PhD in operations management from the Simon School of Business at the University of Rochester. And all of that is great, but the most important thing is he's a member of the FIRST advisory board. So we appreciate that, and I look forward to your presentation. So let's welcome him to the stage.
Okay. So just press on that. Okay.
If there is no okay,
It's okay.
it's not popping up.
I see. No.
Oh, okay. I didn't know it was here.
Okay. It should be good now.
Thanks, Rajiv. Thanks, Kevin. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I feel very honored to be invited and be speaking to such a distinguished set of people. And this is my first time attending this symposium. And the experience so far has been unbelievably good. Great work being done by the faculty and students in different universities. I'm learning a lot during these sessions. Also, I want to thank Professor Ming Jin for being associated, my association with him has been for almost 15 plus years. And during this time, this has been a very good association in terms of my watching him and seeing, how he leads things. And also I want to thank him for inviting me here. And also want to thank Misty for helping me with all the logistics for making this trip. With this, I'm going to get started on the topic of discussion today, which is talking about the trends and best practices impacting transportation and how they impact the supply chains in general. And we also talk about how to make supply chains more efficient, resilient, and agile, given what is going on currently. How to move it? Okay. Sorry, folks. That's some technical challenge. First of all, I will briefly give an overview of SaxeCap. It will be very brief because this is not the main point of discussion here. But then I get into the heart of the discussion, that is talking about the trends and best practices impacting transportation and supply chains. And then going to primarily focus on two areas and talk about few case examples. One is the area of optimization and analytics. The other is control towers. As it relates to SaxeCap, it is a AI transformation and investment holding company. We have three different subsidiaries under SaxeCap. One is transformations, which is mainly focused on helping transform businesses using technologies of different types, primarily use of optimization, AI, automation, and so on. The other is products. We have got proprietary products These are softwares which we do deploy for different companies in their pursuit to business transformation. And the third one is private equity, wherein we have a private equity fund. We make investments in companies and then help transform those businesses using the other two subsidiaries services. I primarily focus on the supply chain area, and we again, have focus on optimizing and improving the supply chains using technology. And we have got a good breadth and depth in different areas of the supply chains. And herein we cover areas like network design, transportation optimization, warehouse optimization, inventory planning, demand planning, sustainability, and so on. Okay, now let's get into the more interesting stuff. Trends and best practices impacting transportation and supply chain. I've listed out some of the key trends impacting transportation. As you are aware of, when you talk about some of the things which are happening right now, everybody hears about what is going on in Middle East, although it's not directly here in US, but it does even impact US. Like, say, one particular pain point in the global network could have implications for the whole world. It could be major disruptions. So many of these disruptions are natural disruptions, but more often these disruptions are man-made. Basically, when you talk about natural disruptions, it could be hurricanes and tornadoes and snowstorms and so on. Or when you talk about man-made disruptions, they could be port strikes, it could be basically COVID-19, and it could be what is going on around the world, in terms of different types of wars. And then you have got business model changes, which have been happening at a very rapid pace. And one of the big ones in the last 15 years or so has been the direct to consumer channel, which has really changed the game so much for all the companies. And associated with that, there are customer expectation changes in terms of what customers look for or demand from different companies or organizations. They are looking for deliveries the next day. They are looking for the deliveries the same day. And there are companies which are around the world, in different countries, which are offering deliveries which are 15 minutes. So you place an order and by the time you think about it, the order is delivered at your home. It's just breathtaking, but it creates definitely, different type of challenges on the transportation and supply chain side. Then technological developments are also in many ways shaping what the transportation and supply chains are looking like or will look like. And primarily in the developments in the area of automation, AI, and so on, that's having a major impact in terms of dealing with the challenges arising from different other types of disruptions. Then there's always, these geopolitical events wherein you talk about things like tariffs being put on different countries or different other types of trade barriers being put on different countries and so on, you can source from this country and you cannot source from this country, or manufacturing needs to be brought close to the demand points. And that is creating a lot of changes on a dynamic basis and basically, impacting how the transportation management should be carried out and also the associated transportation and supply chain requirements quite a bit. So essentially, all these changes, the trends which are bringing about a lot of changes on a almost dynamic basis, basically mean that you are not just talking about efficient transportation and supply chains, you are talking about also transportation activity, which is more agile and resilient, and supply chains which are more agile and resilient. But agility and resilience just cannot just be the focus on in isolation. It has also to be looked at in the business context, and these at the same time, these activities need to be efficient. Also, there are some other emerging trends which are going to further transform transportation area. And there was a lot of talk about some of these items, topics here during different sessions. Basically, AI-driven autonomous management. Every table you sit on or anybody you talk to, people talk about agentic AI and LLMs and different types of other technological developments which are changing the way things should be done. A lot of these activities which are performed by human beings, they are going to be automated, and they are going to be, in many cases, they are going to be done better, because not only you can basically do them in a reactive fashion, but you can also do them more importantly in more predictive type of fashion, because you can leverage so much data and in a more holistic sense to make those predictions and act on what is going to happen. Then physical autonomy in freight, basically, there have been successful pilots of autonomous trucks, and I think technology probably is already ready, and it's just a question of time before the required governmental approvals are provided. And you go to different cities, you see these autonomous taxis, which I think drive better than most of the drivers, like most of the cars which are driven by human beings. At least that is my experience. And driver shortages and wage inflation is only going to speed it up. And once that happens, it's going to change things in a big way. Also, sustainability, this topic becomes sometimes more hard, sometimes less hard, but it's a very important area. And they are going to be, with time, there are going to be more and more states and countries which are going to put more restrictions on emission requirements and reporting requirements, and also with the basically emergence of more EV and there were discussions about hydrogen cell fueled vehicles and so on, or other types of technologies which are greener in nature, and customers demanding more green logistics. There's going to be most likely a lot of changes coming because of that. Next, I get into discussion about select transportation management best practices. And I have put few of them. There are lots more, but things I wanted to talk about are here. Frequent network design. We talked about all this dynamic nature of the business and business activity earlier when we talked about some of the trends. So what that means is that what is an optimal way of doing things today might be very suboptimal, say for a few months' time, because of the changes which are happening. So whereas till about 15 years back, the network design studies were conducted by different companies, like on an average, once in 3 to 5 years. Now, all the same companies they are performing these studies at least once a year, most likely twice a year, and some companies have even come up with digital twins, which are constantly looking at all the changes which are taking place, and they are changing their sourcing and other planning activity accordingly. Then second one, integrated planning. And it is a very important area. Basically, in some of the earlier talks, people talked about connecting all these disparate systems and activities. The tactical planning, tactical supply chain planning has to basically come together with transportation execution, because things are changing so fast and customer expectations are so high that you have got to do that. Even if you talk in the context of say e-commerce activity, where we are talking about direct to consumer type of shipments. So depending on how depending on how well your inventory is positioned and how well your transportation assets are positioned, is going to dictate whether your business is successful or not. And even if you can deliver a load, deliver a shipment to a customer, are you going to make money on that? It is going to be dictated by how well you connect planning with execution. And planning is not just transportation planning, but you are talking about the whole big cycle, like, inventory planning and demand planning and transportation planning, everything coming together. Then real-time end-to-end visibility and event management. And here we will talk about control towers, because, if you are going to be like, responding to things which are changing by the hour or the minute, you have to have great real-time visibility and ability to detect the potential problems which are going to arise and take basically proactive actions to deal with them. And even if you take reactive actions, you need to be able to take them in an intelligent manner so that the implications or the harm done by them is minimized. Then dynamic AI-driven optimization and management, and just similar to, like, we talked about network design coming from once in 5 years to multiple times in a year. When you talk about optimization, so it is not just, doing it in a manner where, overnight the optimization engine runs and gives you the routes, and you are done for the next day as to what shipment should be dispatched in what order and what should be consolidated or not. You have to be constantly looking at how the basically the environment is changing in terms of the customer demand and where the trucks or the other transportation vehicles are placed, and be able to mix and match them in a way where you can optimize the whole activity. Next, I get into a discussion about some of the case examples. And I was not sure, like, what to cover here. And I decided to basically, since it is more focused on transportation, I decided to draw from some of my work experiences where I was able to optimize transportation in different ways. The first one is network optimization. I think this is a big one, although it is not directly transportation optimization and execution on a day-to-day basis. But what type of network you have in place quite a bit impacts your logistics cost. And most of this logistics cost is transportation cost, which is like, in many cases about 60% or 70% of the total cost. So this is a big part, like, because if your locations or the distribution centers and warehouses and are not placed optimally, and you do everything else the right way in terms of optimizing transportation the best way possible, your cost is not going to be well optimized. Like, I've read at different places that your cost of operations in an operational setting is 80% dictated by the design of your supply chain network. So this is an example where we were working with a consumer products company. It is a very well-known multinational. Probably everybody in this room uses their products at home. And they had more than 30 different divisions, and they had grown by acquiring different companies. And every company they acquired pretty much acted independently, and they had their own supply chain. So there was basically a hodgepodge of their supply chains, and they wanted us to help them with rationalizing their supply chain and bringing some sanity in the whole process. And I asked their VP of Global Supply Chain at that time, like, how many distribution centers you have in the US? And he said, I don't know the exact number, probably something more than 70. Okay? So it was like, because there's so many divisions you have acquired and they are all independent, and there's no common consolidated database of anything. And we worked on this study to consolidate and rationalize their network. And we came up with the different scenarios, but the scenario we decided to go with was 8 independent, eight collaborative consolidated distribution centers in the whole of US. And the cost savings and the service improvements were very phenomenal. Cost savings were to the tune of 12% or $42 million per annum. So it was a great win for them, and they went ahead and implemented the new network with our help. The other example I chose, and I was thinking about whether to talk about it or not, because this is more in an international setting, but I thought it applies to domestic setting as well. The same company, they wanted us to help with origin logistics, and they were sourcing just like many other companies from around the world, like China, India, Vietnam, and so on, and Europe, and a lot of different places. And again, since there were these disparate 30+ divisions, there was no commonality of systems, there were no commonality of processes, there's no standardization. And although many of these divisions were sourcing from same regions, like they might be sourcing from, say, South China, and these different products might be going to the same customers like Walmart and Target and Walgreens and so on. But none of them were talking with each other, and because there was no way, nobody knew what the other division was doing. And we looked at the whole thing in a holistic manner, and looked at standardizing their systems and processes, and also looked for opportunities for different types of consolidations, what type of containers to use, and whether to use less than container load or full container load in an optimal setting, how to maximize the use of container utilization, and so on. And it resulted in also major cost savings, which are to the tune of 8%, like $6 million per annum. But again, this was again an ongoing activity, and it not only impacted the international logistics part, but also impacted the destination, because now you have more disciplined processes and better visibility. You can also optimize better as far as the inbound logistics was concerned on the US side. This is a case example of outbound transportation optimization. It's a major Japanese multinational in the electronics industry. And they were facing a lot of pressure because of competitiveness in the marketplace. And in the current setting, they were not using any type of tools or applications to help optimize their transportation, or from their distribution centers to the retailer DCs or retailer stores. And we looked at multiple different types of scenarios as to how we can look at all different possibilities of trying to make the freight movement more efficient. And what you see on the graph, this chart, it shows different bars. And the first bar is for the baseline cost, and then different other bars, they correspond to the different scenarios, and the height of the bar determines as to what is the total cost of those transportation operations is. And essentially, looked at different ways of bringing cost savings, and the best case scenario was that we do the mode shift and shipment pooling. And shipment pooling is where mode shift is deciding on to what is the best mode, whether to use less than truckload, parcel, and so on. That shipment pooling is where you are looking at, say, shipments going over long distances. Let's say, there is a distribution center in Southern California, and you are looking at the Northeast market. And all the shipments which are going to different, say, electronics retailers, DCs, you combine them at the origin in a full truckload, and then send them over thousands of miles to another location in the Northeast, and then you split the shipments out. So that was the best case solution, but also we looked at multi-stop truckload routing and other types of consolidations. Then packaging design. This is one of the areas I wanted to talk about, because I believe this is one area which impacts transportation a lot. And this is one of the most neglected areas. And anywhere you go and any company you look at, and a lot of times their trailers and other transportation vehicles are not well utilized, because the product will not stack on top of each other. Those boxes or other types of packaging material. And in this case, this is for a medical equipment manufacturer. It's a major medical equipment manufacturer based in US. And they supply hospital beds and they supply different types of sophisticated equipment to monitor patients in the hospitals. And their distribution center was over capacity. Like it was like, being utilized at 120% utilization level. Like, normal is if you go beyond 85% utilization, that is not good for your efficiency. And we looked at a main product line that was different types of beds, hospital beds. And in the current setting, the way the fixtures were, you can only handle one bed at a time. And in a truck, you can only put like 2 or 4, up to 4 beds, depending on the dimensions of the beds. And you cannot stack them on top of each other in the distribution center. So we looked at changing the packaging and redesigned the packaging, these wooden crates in which they were put. And we were able to stack them up to 10 high. And we were also, this was easier to handle in terms of handling the beds themselves. And also it helped in increasing the utilization of the trucks quite a bit and resulted in 6% cost savings for $6.3 million per year. Then application of AI for service failure prediction. In the original setting, this is for a tool manufacturer, major tool manufacturer, and they were facing these service delays at their customer locations, and they were primarily, shipping to places like these different retailers, DCs like Home Depot and Lowe's and others. And like retailers, have become very strong, very smart. Like every time you send the shipment late or it is not as per the SLA, they put a penalty on you. And so basically, number one, they get ticked off that you are not providing good service and you might lose the business. But also, even if they keep you, they keep putting penalties on you. And we developed an AI ML based application, and it was able to help them predict service failures in advance. And we were able to improve the on-time service performance by over 20%. And that helped them in reducing their penalties in a big way. Okay. Everybody is going good so far? Yeah. Next, we talk about control towers. And control tower, basically, the name is taken from, every time you fly, you see on the airports, you've got these air traffic control towers, and they are constantly monitoring that flight activity and making sure, like, everything is done as per the plan and fully disciplined way so that there are no major hiccups of any type. And the same concept is translated in the transportation, in general transportation management area. And in the earlier case examples, I talked about how to improve the efficiency of operations. And also, some of those solutions you design, you take into account the resiliency part where you build in redundancy and so on. But when you are doing the actual operations, you basically want to be monitoring the operations on an ongoing basis in a real-time manner and be proactive about identifying any issues or problems before they occur, or even if they have occurred, like, being able to be prompt in trying to analyze what are the different options and how to take corrective actions so that the pain is minimized. So basically, it requires continuous, continued real-time visibility or tracking, and also the event management. And basically, you are tracking the shipments on a continued basis, and sometimes, you are trying to also predict as to which shipment might be late, for what reason, and taking actions, but figuring out, how to mitigate the issue. And also, making the decisions about from the options which are available as to which is the right option. And so you use a lot of data analytics or database decision support in doing that. So there are four key pillars of value for a transportation control tower. The visibility, that you are able to basically be able to see and visualize, see and monitor the shipment on an ongoing basis. You can do it across the whole network, looking at not only your operations, but also looking at the operations of your trading partners. And you then also can control the activity well, because you have the visibility. Then what parts of the supply chain are working well, and where the potential problems are going to emerge, and where the problems have already emerged. And then you be able to respond to it, because you can look at the problems, and you can look at potential impact they might have, and can make educated decisions about what is the best way to solve this problem. Like, if shipment is going to be late, do you need to basically set the customer expectations in advance and see whether it's critical for the shipment to be on time or not. If it is critical, then you're trying to see how you can speed it up, and basically take corrective actions, those making the best trade-off of cost and service. Then collaboration, because you are talking about a common platform on which all you and all the other trading partners are hooked, and there's a common single version of truth and common processes monitoring the shipment activity, and how to deal with any types of disturbances. So you are able to collaborate much better, and also you can do knowledge and information sharing on the real-time basis, or as a afterthought. And so basically, everybody has access to the information, and they can be better educated in terms of collaborating with one another in making the operations better, and that improves your demand supply match, reduces cost, and enhances your agility and resilience. Here, I basically, here I talk about a control tower which I worked on. I have worked on control tower projects multiple times during my career, but this one was a domestic control tower, and the main functionality we had in this control tower was definitely visibility and event management, which is the core to a control tower. But also, because we have got all this data available, we were also able to do service analytics and cost analytics and market analytics. So visibility, you can have end-to-end real-time visibility, and also you can look at how the volumes have been trending across customers and carriers and modes and so on. And service analytics, you can not only react to the service failure situations, but also you can look at how the service-wise you are performing. As far as on-time service is concerned, as at the customer level and at the carrier level and the lane level and mode level and so on, and make the right correct decisions to correct any issues. Then cost analytics, you can also look at as to how you are performing as compared to the market, because the third-party logistics companies like the ones I worked for, they contract with different carriers, and they are negotiated rates. Whether those rates are better than what the market is doing right now, or they are worse, and should you be using the contract carriers, or should you be going for more real-time types of brokerage activity, you can make those decisions. And market analytics, you can look at what is happening in the market, which areas of the market are tight in terms of capacity, and where the rejection rates for load standard are more and less, and so on, and how the rates are trending, how the volumes are trending, and so on. So you can do a lot of analytics around that, and make educated decisions. This is a snapshot of the landing page of the control tower I'm talking about. Basically, it has got four different quadrants. You have got a display of these four different types of areas, like shipment visibility, and service analytics, and cost analytics, and market visibility analytics. Then essentially, you can look at the aggregate or macro level statistics, or you can go down to lane level or product level and drill down and look at, how shipments are doing, the shipments in transit, as well as shipments which have been booked and shipments which are still pending, and basically make decisions based on how they are going to do in terms of cost and service performance. And basically, similar type of drill down you can do on the service side as to how it has been, how you are performing. And I talked about some of those areas of focus. And on the cost side, you can similarly do the detailed analytics, and on the market sides too. Essentially, this is one of the drill downs for market analytics. So basically, it shows that you are doing better than the market, and basically, you can do like a lot of detailed drill down and associated decision making. Okay, this is where I end. And any questions?
It's gonna have to be loud, I think.
Sure.
In terms of flights, do you have a distinction between freight carriers like UPS and FedEx versus other types of carriers that share space on an aircraft with you?
Yes, you can basically because you are collecting data and monitoring it on a carrier level also. Basically, you can definitely look at them separately in terms of different categories.
Which is more cost effective?
It depends. It depends on the market condition. And because also what happens that, when you're dealing with carriers like UPS and FedEx and DHL, you have got contracted rates with them. So then when the market is tight and the demand is high, you might do well using those carriers. But if the market is soft, the other types of carriers, they might offer you space on their flights, which is cheaper. Yeah, Kevin.
Yeah. My question was about the large companies are probably able to use AI effectively, but what are your thoughts about smaller logistics companies, trucking companies, and their ability to leverage AI? Do you think those companies have the in-house talent, or do you think they need help with that? And is there a role for consulting or research to fill that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Because the fact is that today, everybody is talking about using AI, whether it's a small company or a big company, because in many cases, they know that it can make the difference in terms of success or failure. Bigger companies, as Kevin mentioned, definitely have the benefit of deep pockets, and they can hire talent themselves and build teams, and there are benefits of doing that. But smaller companies, again, as Kevin was mentioning, have the option of engaging with consultants. And the good thing about it is that, at least what I've seen, definitely sometimes there are missteps, but in most cases there's tangible value being created. And if the value being created is more than what you're spending, like even the small companies could be in play. But I think preferably they should start with a consulting route, because you hire this one guy or girl, and you train them on their business, and they come up to speed and start doing good work, and come 1.5 year, they're being there, and somebody offers them a job at 30%, 40% more salary, and they bolt, and then you're back to ground zero. And so there are those type of risks too. Basically, I would say that it's better to go with consultants to start with.
Any other questions? All right, I have one more, I guess.
Okay.
So we have a lot of students in the room.
Yeah.
You've had a very long and distinguished career. Can you give them some thoughts about what they can do to be successful, what you've seen in the industry over time, and how they can position themselves best to take advantage of those things?
Yeah, essentially, my advice will be very basic, which probably, everybody knows. I think the key thing is to try to think about bringing value to the organization where you are working. Because it is strictly a business relationship. The companies where you work for, they are going to value as long as you are creating more value for them than the cost associated with you. And the best way to create value, and this is something which I always held very near and dear to my heart, is not just hard work. I think that is very important. That is, there's no way around it. And working hard and doing a great job with whatever you do and taking pride in it. But the easier way to differentiate yourself is by looking at what I can do, which is new, nobody has thought about before. And that gives you so much more mileage. With the same level of efforts, you can get ahead so much more easily if you just play a different game. You just don't take job as a job, like, I have to be there 8 to 5 and collect my money and pay my bills. But in my opinion, always try to look at differentiating yourself, creating value, and creating your brand. It's not about how much money you collect and how much money you have in the bank. It is about whether you feel good about what you did. So that would be my advice.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
On behalf of us here at the University of Tennessee, we'd like to send you back with a bag of Tennessee memorabilia, and that means a lot of orange. But we appreciate you, and thank you for your time. It was great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, at this point, I would like to invite Ali up, my distinguished